Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and finally, as of 3:45 a.m., the dust has seemed to settle, even though I wouldn't be surprised that by the time I wake up, we may have signed somebody else. I'm hoping maybe like a Tyron Smith or Justin Simmons or whatever, but either way, now I finally have time to spin the block and work all the way back to the first signing of day one of the legal tampering period. The Washington Commanders signed Dallas Cowboys edge Dorance Armstrong Jr. to a 3-year deal. I'm going to explain to you through stats and scheme fit why this guy has such a high ceiling and why he could actually end up arguably being one of the biggest steals in free agency. As of right now, I would say Frankie Louvu is easily our best signing, but there are some sleepers in there, Tyler Biadasz and all of those other guys that we may have signed. I'm going to provide the argument why this, maybe looking back from a year or two from now, could actually end up being our best signing. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned because like I promised, even though it's late, it's almost 4 a.m. Eastern time, I promise I'm going to do a video for every single signing that we have going on. And again, even if it's a rumor, like the rumor going around right now that Patrick Quinn could potentially end up landing in Washington or Seattle, I'm updating y'all on every little thing for the Commanders, your one-stop shop. But let's go ahead and stop wasting time. Let's go ahead and get to this video right now. Let's get it. So this was all the way back at 2:22 p.m. This is when the Commanders legal tampering period chaos initially started. This was like really the catalyst for this whole run of free agency signings that we had. Ian Rappaport tweeted, the Commanders are signing former Cowboys edge rusher Dorance Armstrong to a 3-year deal worth $45 million max value, source said. Another Dan Quinn favorite. And I'm not necessarily sure why he gave like the max volume. I mean, they typically do that when they do those tweets, but of course a lot of fans just all they see is 3-year $45 million and assume that he's a $15 million cap hit every year. But as of right now, it's looking like his projected cap hit will be somewhere on an annual value of $8.5 million per year. Way less, way better value there. So as of right now, the base package actually for Armstrong is 3 years, $33 million, which basically gives him an annual value of like $11 million per year, which if you're looking at the top ranked edge rushers as of right now, that makes him the 30th highest paid edge rusher at best. And that's for now. Wait till some more edge rushers end up getting signed to bigger contracts and things like that. It's over with, man. He may end up lower than that by the time we're done with free agency before this season even starts. The more edge rushers that sign, the more it's going to push his contract down. And for you to get him for 30th ranked edge rusher money immediately is a huge steal already, I feel like, in my opinion. And then again, before this offseason is done, he's probably going to be somewhere in the 30s. By the time we're around this time next year, he's probably going to be somewhere in the 40s. That's extreme value. Shouts out to Mason Kinahan and Jason OTC over there over the cap for providing some details on his contract. Basically, as of 2024, he's only a $4.885 million cap hit, y'all. That's extremely cheap. You know how much money that allows us to continue to shop with? Where again, if you're looking at the base contract, 3 years worth $33 million at base, you're assuming it's $11 million per year. This guy isn't even hitting us for $5 million in 2024. Then he's not even hitting us for $10 million in 2025. And then he's going to hit us for $12.335 million in 2026. And then 2027 is technically a void year. So as you can see, the Commanders are getting a little creative with the contracts. We're doing those void year things. That's probably to make sure we still have enough cap space to not only sign our rookie class that's coming up from this 2024 draft, which is literally like a month and a half away, but also we may be looking to sign some more guys. You don't necessarily do all of this work to do void years and things like that, especially since entering free agency, you had the most cap space in the NFL, and everybody we've signed to high value contracts. None of them have broke the bank, and we're still doing things to finesse void years. That shows me that they're still interested in potentially signing some guys, and maybe the guys they're trying to sign may end up getting more money than anybody else we've previously signed. We're definitely saving room. I keep bringing up the fact that we need to go ahead and secure Samuel Cosmi, go ahead and extend him far into the future, because I'm telling you, the later we wait, the far more expensive he gets. Because to me, honestly, literally the second half of last season, he was the best player on our team. He's going to demand big money when it's time for him to eat up a contract, but that's not a priority right now. But I just want that, hopefully Adam Peters and the guys have that in the back of their minds when they're doing all of these calculations. Right now, my priority is to go get potentially like a Tyron Smith at left tackle. I would love a Justin Simmons at safety, and then Patrick Queen. I mean, maybe not a necessity, but if he's willing to take a cheaper contract than what he's projected at like $18.5 million per year right now, and if he's willing to potentially take like half of that, I would love to get him too. But I think Tyron Smith is the biggest need out of any of those three guys, and Patrick Queen is probably the least need out of those guys. But going back to this boy, Dorance Armstrong Jr., my boy Dorance Armstrong Jr., I mean, this signing was literally expected. Like, I feel like the Tyler Biadasz signing was kind of expected. You can see the dots that were connecting. It made a lot of sense. So I wouldn't necessarily say I predicted that. It was just like, why wouldn't we? Like, why would we not go get Tyler Biadasz? And with Tyler Biadasz, I felt like he also may have a bigger market and maybe more teams trying to sign him, in contrast to like a Dorance Armstrong, where it just made entirely too much sense. Like, I've been saying it for like a couple of weeks now, but it felt like it was so obvious that I don't even feel like I deserve any credit for this prediction. It just made way too much sense. It was literally meant to be. Even Micah Parsons has joked about following Dan Quinn to Washington through Twitter, through podcasts, and all of that type of stuff. So I know a lot of players on the Dallas Cowboys are also thinking about it, even beyond just Dorance Armstrong. And that's a guy that I'm assuming that a lot of teams maybe weren't trying to sign. I think, again, Tyler Biadasz probably had a bigger market than him. So it just seemed like an automatic choice. He would want to follow Dan Quinn. He would want to be a part of that scheme, because if anything, he's more attached to Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. than he is the Dallas Cowboys themselves, with them bringing in a new defensive coordinator and everything. And then also, we need edge rusher bad. Again, I don't think there's a big market out there for him, because maybe not a lot of people are aware of the potential that he has, just basically laying inside him, waiting to be developed and cracked open. And then also, would he want to sit there and behind two really good to elite edge rushers and be a part of that rotation, or would he want to come here and earn an opportunity to potentially start, since we need edge rushers so bad? It just made too much sense for so many different reasons. Again, probably the biggest reason that made the most sense is how bad we needed edge rusher in the worst way. I'm surprised with how bad we needed edge rusher, he wasn't able to use that as leverage to try to get more money out of us. I mean, shouts out to Adam Peters and company for finding a way to get him for this extreme value. I'm telling you, man, this is arguably our biggest need. Even before we started making all of these signings, even when center was still a need, even when interior offensive lineman like a guard was still a need, even when maybe you could argue kicker, I guess, was a need, when linebacker, and I still feel like is a slight need, but even before signing Frankie Louvu and linebacker was a big need, I would argue that edge rusher was literally our number one need. Now with edge rusher, at least having somebody pretty good with a relatively high floor, but a very high ceiling like a Dorance Armstrong, I still feel like we maybe need to draft a guy. But now, after signing Dorance Armstrong, our biggest need is clearly left tackle. And then it's like a big gap in every other position of need that we have, including DBs, maybe another tight end, some more receivers, and things like that. But either way, man, it just made too much sense for us to not only want him, but for him to want us. Because again, why would he want to sit behind those two really good edge rushers for the Dallas Cowboys, new defensive coordinator coming in, where he could come here and start for the guys that have gotten the most out of him and coached them up since he's been drafted there? It just made too much sense. And I love the fact, shouts out to Doug Farrar for pointing this out, Quinn likes guys who can win in multiple gaps, and Armstrong has proved that ability last season. 74% of his snaps were at edge, but he had a sack and 6 pressures on just 112 inside snaps. So this guy can do it everywhere. I mean, you can literally watch the clips. There was one time where he was going against like a slower guard, because that's what happens when you're typically an edge rusher and they move you inside, probably on like an obvious passing down situation. They move you from edge rusher to defensive tackle. Typically you have speed on as far as an advantage over the guard that's potentially trying to block you, and he showed just that. It was such a quick little swim move around him, immediately sacking Matt Ryan. It's a Falcons game if you want to know what exact game to go look at for that clip. Also, I think Dorance Armstrong Jr. will end up being a steal in free agency, because he still has a lot of potential, man. That's like really one of the main reasons I feel like this is going to be whoo, I think his best days are ahead of him. Plus, he's already acclimated to the Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. defense and how they want certain things ran. So there's a floor there automatically. And he knows the mentality that they want to have, the identity, like as far as like high motor guys that are willing to hit. You got to be willing to put your body on the line. There's no laziness. You're playing to the end of the whistle no matter what. Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn have made that very clear that that's going to be the identity of this team. And if for anything, at the very least, we know we have at least one guy that's with that on at least the defensive side of the ball, and Dorance Armstrong Jr. Everybody else, it may take some time for them to get acclimated, whereas Dorance Armstrong Jr. comes in day one and is arguably one of the leaders of the defense just simply because of that, until everybody catches up to the playbook, to the way that they want things ran, the way they want practice to be done, and all of that type of stuff. Dorance Armstrong, even though he's pretty young, is going to come in as one of the leaders because he's the person that's the most familiar with the Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. defense until everybody else catches up, or maybe we sign some guys like a J-Ron Curse to fill in the same star role, or most of y'all probably refer to it as a Buffalo nickel. But either way, unless we bring in a guy like that, right now Dorance Armstrong is the only person on this entire Commanders roster that has been coached by Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. and their defenses. Of course, we got Tyler Biadasz on the offensive side, but that doesn't matter right now. But also, even with that automatic floor that he comes with, he also really started to flash the past couple of years, man, under the coaching, and the trajectory right now is pointing up for him completely. I mean, come on, dog. Dorance Armstrong had 16 sacks, 28 quarterback hits, and 33 pressures over the last 2 seasons as a backup rotational player. I mean, come on, man. And what's even more impressive is that he was known as like a situational pass rush specialist type of guy, kind of like a Shaka Toney, where he was supposed to be before he started betting on teams that was so bad. But on top of being a pass rush specialist, now these past couple of seasons, he's improved as a run stopper and as a guy that can set the edge. So I did expect him to get more playing time just in general, even if he would have stayed with the Cowboys and Dan Quinn Jr., Joe Witt Jr. would have stayed with the Cowboys and nothing would have changed there. I was expecting him to get more playing time just naturally. But then also coming to the Commanders, where we need edge rushers so bad, I'm expecting him to take on a full-blown starting role right now. Remember, Armstrong averaged 8 sacks the past 2 seasons and has only been on the field for like 50% of snaps as a rotational piece. That's incredible, y'all. 8 sacks on 50% of snaps. I mean, so basically, if the math is adding up correctly, if he's in a full-time role, he should naturally hit double-digit sacks for us and be a double-digit sack guy. And we haven't had that in I don't know how long. Like, especially on a consistent basis, not just a flash in the pan. Just had 1 season as a double-digit sack guy. I could definitely expect this guy to be that. I'm super excited. And to put it in better perspective, shouts out to Ben Standick for this. Of Armstrong's 93 career regular season games, all with the Cowboys, the 2018 4th round pick never started more than 5 games in any season. Yet the 6'4", 255-pounder also finished second on the team in sacks in each of the past 2 seasons, only behind the elite pass rusher and Micah Parsons, including a career high 8.5 in 2022. He's second in sacks, but like 3rd or 4th in snaps. Like, I'm telling you, bro, this guy, once he gets the opportunity to start, I think he's gonna explode, man. I think his best days are ahead of him. Shouts out to Grant Paulson for this. Dorance Armstrong's 2023, 42% of snaps, 35 pressures, 4 QB hits, 22 hurries, and has not missed a game since 2021. So he's also very durable and dependable. That's a big thing. Frankie Louvu didn't miss a single game last year either. Like, we're bringing guys in here that don't miss games, and I absolutely love it. That was like the only real strong advantage to Charles Leno, is that he didn't miss games. Now we have guys that not only do not miss games, but are supposed to be very productive at what they do, and one of the better guys at their position group. So we're just hitting on all of these signings. You know, we can debate about how much we've hit, but none of these signings have been misses. And he's also very versatile. Again, he's a high motor rusher that can get to the quarterback from both the outside and the inside. I mean, he has sacks and pressures from both defensive tackle, edge rusher, all of that, beating guards with quickness to the inside. And if you're listening to that, doesn't that remind you of somebody like a Darius Robinson in the draft? So, and if you don't believe me, here you go. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and show you the Matt Ryan clip. And if you still don't believe me, even Walter Football loves the signing, man. And he usually hates our signings. And maybe he was right all along, because we haven't won anything meaningful recently at all. So, I mean, some of the signings that he would hate on when Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio was still here with the previous regime and all of that, I was like, nah, man, that at the very least, that one right there is at least a pretty good, decent signing. He didn't like any of them. Now he's even giving us great signings. According to Walter Football, the Commanders are starting to finally make smart free agency moves, and he feels like we're killing it right now. Dorance Armstrong specifically, he gave him a B+ grade, and I think that's the lowest grade we got on any of the signings that we've made. Frankie Louvu was an A-. You also have Austin Eckler, who's an A+. He also felt like Nick Allegretti is an A+ as well. He just didn't discuss or break down the kicker pick signing yet, but Dorance Armstrong, B+, and that was the first signing we made. So he was like, okay, wait a minute, the Commanders might be on to something this offseason. And then as we started to sign guys, the grades just kept getting higher and higher and higher, and then they maxed out at A+. He gave us just 2 straight A+. But again, Dorance Armstrong, B+. If you look at Dorance Armstrong's stats, they don't exactly pop off the page. He has recorded 8.5 and 7.5 sacks in the past 2 seasons, which is good, but not great. However, consider that Armstrong is just a part-time player. With a larger role, Armstrong's sack total should rise. Given the size of Armstrong's contract and all the recent pass rushing departures of the Redskins, there will be more snaps for former Jayhawk in the future. In fact, this contract may look like a bargain down the road. I'm telling you, man, don't sleep. Even if Walter Football even likes our signings, you know you should be on board, because he's been one of the biggest Commanders haters for the past few years. When in doubt, no matter how positive people feel about our drafts, about our free agent signings, you'll go to Walter Football, he'd be like, this sucks. And now he's even like, okay, Commanders. So that has to say something. That has to hold at least a little bit of weight. Of course, whether Walter Football likes our signings or not isn't the end all be all at all. But I'm just trying to show y'all that even national media members that have not liked what we've done before even like what we're doing right now. That's the situation we're in now, with new ownership, new GM, new head coach, an entirely different front office and coaching staff. That's what we have going for us right now. Everybody loves us. I'm literally working on a video right now. Everybody's reactions to the signings we've made, and some people that aren't even Commanders reporters, just straight up national media members, are debating on Twitter right now that did the Commanders win day 1 of legal tampering period? And it's a strong argument to be made. Again, I'm gonna do a deep dive into that in another video as well. And speaking of Walter Football, he even graded our Dorance Armstrong signing higher than the Eagles getting Bryce Huff. And then you also again have national media members and analysts that normally act like we don't even exist, even loving this signing. Like you have Brandon Thorne. He said Armstrong is one of the most underrated and efficient inside-out versatile pass rushers in the league, whose skill set was fully unlocked under Dan Quinn in Dallas the last few years. So this one makes a lot of sense. And then also shouts out to my boy Mark Tyler for bringing up a great point. Interesting nugget on Dorance Armstrong. He's an edge, but Quinn used him as a 5 tech who was flanked by Parsons outside in the Cowboys 4-3 underlook at times. So sometimes he would, like a lot of times he would be on the complete outside, like the furthest person away from the quarterback. But then sometimes he would have Micah Parsons to the right of him. So basically you can kind of expect with Jamin Davis moving into that Micah Parsons role, like Dan Quinn said himself, I'm not making this up, Jamin Davis is going to start pass rushing far more often than he used to before. I'm not necessarily expecting him to do it as often as Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons is so elite at it, but then you never know. Maybe Jamin Davis unlocks something there, and then he just happens to become elite at it. I wouldn't bet on it, but either way, point blank period, Jamin Davis is going to be rushing the passer way more often than he used to the previous 4 years that he's been here with the Commanders and the Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera. So if Dan Quinn did that with Micah Parsons to have him on the outside of Dorance Armstrong and using Dorance Armstrong as like a 5 tech sometimes, then I could also see him doing that with Dorance Armstrong inside a little bit, but still pretty out wide, and then Jamin Davis on the outside of him. So Jamin Davis could pretty much get a clear-cut one-on-one. And Jamin Davis, and man, it's time to start working on those pass rush moves, because Dan Quinn is definitely going to demand that of you. And I'm super excited about that role for Dorance Armstrong. Again, Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., the combination of those two guys are so creative with defensive players. Remember how like we were complaining that Montez Sweat and Chase Young just primarily stayed where they were? Like one of them was primarily a right end like 90 90-something% of the time. The other one was a left end primarily, like 90% of the time. And then we were also hoping, not only can you just switch those guys up every now and then, but can we also, even outside of stunts, just have Chase Young and Montez Sweat occasionally be the defensive tackle some plays? Dan Quinn is that creative genius where he's going to have people all over the place, and whatever matchup makes the most sense, it may even just be based on opponent. Oh, that opponent has a really slow tackle, Dorance Armstrong, you attack that mostly this game. Or this opponent has a really good tackle, we want to get the most out of you this game, Dorance Armstrong, so we're going to probably send you inside more often this game than outside. You just never know. Dan Quinn is that type of person, and Joe Witt Jr. as well. Now that he's our defensive coordinator, they are the type of people that would do whatever it takes to put people in the best positions to win the most often. I'm super excited. Also, shouts out to Manny Benton, because I definitely agree with this. Early thoughts on Dorance Armstrong is that he is a non-stop motor and strong hands. Won't wow you with his get off or moves or anything like that, but I've come to learn that motor is extremely important for these edge guys. And I do agree, man, that motor is going to carry him a long way. Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are going to put him in the right situations to succeed. At the end of the day, they're going to do so much work on their end that Dorance Armstrong, that motor may be just enough to get him a lot of sacks out there this upcoming season, and hopefully for his career with the Washington Commanders. I'm super excited. But even after this signing, I can still see us going edge rusher within the first 3 rounds somewhere in the draft. Like, I would still love to get Darius Robinson in the 2nd round. I'm excited about Dorance Armstrong, but like right now, all it is KJ Henry and Dorance Armstrong. I guess Andre Jones, the 7th round rookie. KJ Henry was a 5th round rookie that I still didn't feel like we gave him enough snaps last year. So there's still question marks all over the place. And even as much as I like Dorance Armstrong and I feel like he has a higher floor than people give him credit for, he's not enough. So I would still, again, love to go get like a Darius Robinson in the draft, maybe like the 2nd round or something like that. But also, John Com did report a couple of days ago that the Commanders were talking to James Smith-Williams and Casey Toohill, and they may bring one of those guys back for extremely cheap. But that's still not stopping them from taking Darius Robinson in the 2nd round. I want y'all to know that right now. If they like Darius Robinson in the 2nd round, they're taking him. And then, of course, if we can handle left tackle with like a Tyron Smith in free agency, then we don't have to worry about tackle in the 2nd round. I would still like to get one within the first 3-4 rounds that we could develop, especially to eventually take over Andrew Wiley's spot at right tackle. But at the end of the day, we don't have to go tackle as early if we can get a Tyron Smith, and then we can spend that 1st or 2nd round pick that we have right now, or package those two together to trade up to get an edge rusher since we no longer need tackle. I hope that's one of the main reasons I want Tyron Smith, so we can go into the draft not needing tackle, and I really would love that. Also, I can see the Commanders possibly even signing a Dante Fowler for extremely cheap, though. He's only getting older. I'm not expecting him to be great, but he could be a pretty nice rotational pass rusher. Remember, Dan Quinn recruited Dante Fowler to Florida when he was coaching there, the Florida Gators. I'm a Georgia Bulldog, so that sickens me. But either way, then he took him to the Falcons later on in his career, and then he brought him from the Falcons to the Dallas Cowboys with him. So that man, Dan Quinn, basically no matter where he's been except for the Seattle Seahawks, and maybe that's only because he didn't have enough pull to make a roster move like that, or maybe Dante Fowler, whatever reasons, he just wasn't able to get him there. But I would be surprised if he didn't want him, at least based on his track record of everywhere he's been, literally since he's coached in college. Other than his stop for the Seattle Seahawks, he's had Dante Fowler on his roster for at least a year. And also, man, I loved what Adam Peters is doing right now. He told us literally on the Grant Paulson show that he's going to be active in free agency. It may not be any of the like top guys, like the guy like a Brian Burns at edge rusher or anything like that, but he's finding really good guys. Again, I would argue Tyler Biadasz was the 2nd best center at worst available in this free agency cycle. I would argue Frankie Louvu was the 2nd best linebacker at worst in this free agency cycle, and they're getting them for really valuable contracts that all of those guys I believe are going to outplay. I'm really excited, man. Y'all don't understand. And I think Tyron Smith, even if we get him, and I feel like he's the best tackle in this free agency class, I wouldn't be surprised if we find a way to get him for cheaper than people expect. I would not be surprised at all. So, man, that boy Adam Peters is willing and dealing right now, man. And I just love the fact that with the signings we've made so far, Tyler Biadasz is clearly a big upgrade over Tyler Larson, Nick Gates, or Ricky Strongberg from last year. I believe in Ricky Strongberg. I think he has some talent, but it's not good enough to where I believe in him starting week 1. So that signing was necessary. That was a need that we addressed. Dorance Armstrong looks like he'll be a big upgrade, at least pass rush wise, over at least Chase Young, James Smith-Williams, and Casey Toohill from last year. It looks like Brandon McManus will be an upgrade over Joey Slye, at the very least consistency wise. And then you never know, man. My boy Nick Allegretti, he might be something serious, man. He may be an upgrade over who we have at left guard. That one's more of a question mark. But everybody else we've signed, and Frankie Louvel was easily, like I said in my video breakdown of him, the best linebacker we've had here since London Fletcher in 2012, that RG3 season. Easily. It's not even a second guess. I don't even have to think long or hard about that one. So right now we're addressing needs and getting major upgrades at those needs compared to not only what we've had since last year, but what we've probably had for years at certain positions. So I'm super excited. And again, man, he's living up to what he said. That boy Adam Peters said we're going to be active, and we're getting active. And then there's also reports from ML Football, and this is a trustworthy source right here. He said the Washington Commanders have had talks with many mid-level free agents and their agents continuing on. This was reported at like 10 p.m. So we're still in talks with some other people now. This may not be the end of it. Also, 8-time Pro Bowl tackle Tyron Smith market is heating up. Smith has multiple offers on the table, one source says, so we're probably going to have to outbid those guys. We'll see. Hopefully Dan Quinn can come in with a little bit of convincing, like, hey man, just take a little bit less compared to those other teams, and I promise you, we got you here. We're going to build a Super Bowl contender. You're going to be one of the faces of it. Just trust me type of thing. Hopefully he takes somewhat of a discount to come play with this, or maybe Adam Peters is like, man, forget the cap space, man. We really need him. Give him a blank check. Whatever it takes to get this really good left tackle in the NFL that we really need for this rookie quarterback that we're potentially drafting number 2 overall. I mean, there's really no price too high, arguably. So, hey, man, do what you got to do to get at least Tyron Smith in the building. But, man, I want to point out, and I really want to ask y'all, seriously, when was the last time the Commanders have not only signed 6 free agents like as quickly as we did, like just in the same day, but then also 6 free agents day 1 of free agency? Let's talk about that, man. They came in with a plan and executed it. This is the first day, not even technically a free agency. This is just the legal tampering period. Free agency technically doesn't start till Wednesday, March 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And again, it seems like they had a plan and executed it, because for you to be able to secure the guys that we did as quickly as we did, they definitely got the guys that they wanted. Like, they targeted these guys and they got them. They didn't necessarily get outbidded. You never know what may have happened behind the scenes. Maybe we wanted somebody to end up going elsewhere, but with how quickly we were able to get these deals done, I doubt it. And then on top of all of that, everybody is a high value contract. So it's not like we just went out there and signed 6 random free agency signers. Maybe we overpaid for a couple, maybe we underpaid for a couple. No, everybody is underpaid, and I definitely feel like every single one of them is gonna outplay their contracts, like I've already said. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm that subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button, man. I'm super happy. 4:14 a.m. and I'm finally done with the final, technically the first signing that we made. I've officially talked about everybody. I wouldn't be surprised at this point, with the way the day 1 went, by the time I wake up, we would have signed even more guys, and now I'm behind, now I'm late, now I'm the last one reporting on it and stuff like that. The reporter in me hopes that doesn't happen, but the fan in me says, hey man, if I wake up to Tyron Smith, Justin Simmons, and Patrick Queen, I don't care how late I am, I'm happy as a Commanders fan. I'm doing backflips, and I've never done one before, but I'll learn how to do one for that, man. At least give me Tyron Smith before I wake up. I'm really hoping, man, as the fan in me really wants that. But yeah, man, make sure y'all stay tuned, because again, I'm keeping y'all updated on everything Commanders, man. Every single thing, even if it's just a rumor like Patrick Queen is potentially gonna land with us. Anything, man, even if it's something as small as signing a kicker, I'm doing it. So make sure y'all stay tuned, man. I really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything I discussed in this video. Are you as high on Dorance Armstrong Jr. as I am, or am I tripping? Let me know if you agree or disagree. Also, do you feel like we still need to go get another edge rusher either in free agency and or the draft like I do? Let me know, and I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later, man. Let's get it. I'm out, man.